AITA for walking out when my husband, his mom, and his sister staged an intervention about my parenting just 4 months after I gave birth. I didn't realize that word could make my stomach drop so fast. My husband said, "Mom wants to talk for a minute." His mom and his sister were already sitting at the dining table. 3 chairs on one side, 1 on the other. A printed list in front of them. A pitcher of water, like we were about to negotiate a contract. I shifted my daughter on my shoulder. She made that soft newborn squeak that still makes my heart melt. And then my mother-in-law smiled a tight smile and said, "We're concerned." Before I tell you what happened at that table, let me back up. I'm 21. My husband is 28. We've been together almost 3 years, married last year. Our baby girl arrived 6 weeks early. We weren't trying. We decided to keep the pregnancy and figure it out as we went. That sentence sounds braver than it felt. The truth is, I've been exhausted, leaky, terrified, and also the happiest I've ever been. My days are a loop. Diapers, pumping, laundry, worrying if the breathing monitor is working, and then checking to see if she's still breathing even though I know the monitor is working. If you've ever loved someone who fits into the crook of your elbow, you get it. Here's the thing we never talked about before she was born: how we would parent. I lean gentle, attachment style. If she cries, I pick her up. I feed on demand because her little body tells me when she's hungry better than a clock does. She sleeps in our room because she came early and I hear her better there. My husband is a schedule person. He likes predictability, routines, rules posted on the fridge. In theory for a future toddler, but he's already thinking that way. She'll learn. He says, like discipline is a language you can speak to a preemie. Add in his mom. She is involved. If involvement was a sport, she would meddle. She has opinions, capital O. "Don't pick her up so fast," she'll say. "You're smothering her," she'll joke, except her face doesn't look like a joke. "You're making a rod for your own back," she'll add, which I had to Google because it sounded like a medieval punishment. She clucks when the baby naps on my chest. She circles the crib like a home inspector searching for violations. I try to smile and nod because I know I'm younger than everyone in the room, and because choosing my battles is one of the few forms of control I have left. Now, back to the dining table. My husband, his mom, and his sister sat me down. He said, "Please don't get defensive." That's my favorite pre-defensive sentence. My mother-in-law pushed a paper toward me like a handout. Bullet points. I remember the first 3 because they were bolded. Sleeping in your room past X weeks. Breastfeeding on demand. Refusing to let others watch her. "We're worried about your mental health," my sister-in-law said, soft voice, counselor tone. "There's postpartum anxiety. There's helicopter parenting. We found some articles." My ears rang a little. I adjusted my daughter. She sighed and burrowed closer into my neck. It felt like we were both trying to hide inside my collarbone. "I'm not saying you're a bad mom," my mother-in-law added, which is also my favorite pre-insult sentence. "I'm saying you need to let go a little. Babies cry. Schedules help. You need to stop smothering." My husband reached for my hand. "We just want to help," he said. "You've been emotional. You left the room yesterday when she fussed. You didn't want my mom to hold her last week." I looked at him and wondered when my marriage became a witness statement. I wanted to say, "She came early. She is tiny. My body is still healing. Everything feels like an alarm." But the words got stuck somewhere between my throat and the lump that had formed in it. Instead, I asked, "Why did you plan this without me?" Silence. My daughter hiccuped. The monitor on my phone blinked. The ice in the water pitcher shifted like a tiny avalanche. "It's not an attack," my husband said quickly. "It's concern. It's a chance to talk openly," his sister offered. I scanned the bullet points again. Not a single line said, "Ask her how she's doing." Not a single line said, "What does your pediatrician advise?" Not a single line said, "How can we make things easier for you?" I felt my face heat. Embarrassment is a full-body sensation. It was the shock of realizing everyone else had been talking about me, diagnosing me, building a case. I picture myself from above, a young mom with messy hair and a baby attached to her chest like a question mark. 4 months postpartum is an odd place to live. You're folded between who you were and who you have to be by morning. My mother-in-law leaned in like she was about to hand me a tissue for a crying fit that hadn't started yet. "I'm not doing this," I said, trying to keep my voice level because once I cry, I can't stop. "If you're all concerned, you can be concerned kindly. Without lists. Without ambushing me. You're being defensive," my husband said gently, like he was coaching a patient through a panic attack. Which kind of proves our point. There it was. The trapdoor. If I sat quietly and took it, I was accepting help. If I objected, I was proving their point. I felt my daughter twitch, like babies do when the nervous system is practicing. I stood up. The chair scraped. "We're going home," I said. My mother-in-law put her palm up, courtroom style. "This is exactly." I didn't wait for the rest. I kissed my daughter's hair. I walked to the door. My husband called my name, but he didn't follow me out. The porch light made everything look theatrical and wrong. I clicked the car seat in with that satisfying snap, sat behind the wheel, and breathed until the shaking in my hands slowed down. The next morning, my phone bloomed with links. Understanding postpartum anxiety. Why helicopter parenting hurts. The dangers of co-sleeping. A few had highlighted passages. One had a note, just reading material. No pressure. The irony almost made me laugh. Pressure, delivered in blue bubbles. My husband was quiet. Not angry. Just cool. He said I'd overreacted. He said leaving mid-conversation was dramatic and exactly the kind of behavior that makes people worry. He asked, "Are you open to hearing feedback at all?" I told him I am. Actually, I'm open to conversations that start with questions instead of conclusions. I'm open to being told, "I see you're tired. How can I help?" I'm open to a pediatrician's guidance and to honest check-ins about my mood, my sleep, my tears. I'm not open to a family tribunal where my love for my baby is treated like a disorder because it isn't convenient. I'm not blind to the reality of postpartum anxiety. I Google at 3 a.m. like everyone else. I count breaths. I've had moments where the room tilts and the what-ifs stack up like dominoes. If I need professional help, I will get it. What I needed at that table was respect and a seat as an equal parent, not a case file. So here's what I did instead of answering those links. First, I drew a line with my mother-in-law. I told her, no more group talks. If you have a concern, bring it to me privately, kindly, and once. No more articles unless I ask. I appreciate your love for your granddaughter. I need you to trust my love for her, too. She sent a thumbs-up emoji, which could mean anything between fine and we're at war. We'll see. Second, I asked my husband to sit with me after the baby went down. No phones, no TV, just us on a couch that smells like spit up. I told him I want us on the same team. Team baby. I brought up the pediatrician's advice we've already received, the safe sleep guidelines, the note about room sharing for the first 6 to 12 months. I explained that feeding on demand isn't giving in, it's literally how breast milk supply keeps up. I asked him what scares him. He said, feeling shut out. I said, I feel critiqued. We didn't fix everything, but for the first time in weeks, we were trying to speak the same language. Third, I made an appointment for a postpartum check-in with my doctor. Not because of the list, because I want data, and I want a neutral adult who knows what to look for. If she says, hey, let's get you a therapist, I'll go. If she says, you're in the normal range, but be careful, I'll be careful. Either way, the answer comes from someone trained to give it, not a family committee armed with blog posts. Fourth, we wrote down actual rules for help with the baby. Who can hold her and for how long? Signs she needs a reset. That I get the final call if she's overstimulated. That my husband gets time alone with her without commentary. That we both get veto power on visitors when the day is going off the rails. It felt surprisingly good to have it in ink, even if the ink was just a dry erase marker on the fridge. I don't know if any of this will make my mother-in-law less involved. I don't know if my husband will slip back into you're being defensive the next time I say no to a plan. I do know that walking out of that dinner was the only move that felt like protecting my daughter and myself in the moment. I chose oxygen mask first. I chose not like this. People love to say, it takes a village. They just forget to mention the village needs rules, and the parents get to write them. Maybe I'm more emotional right now. Maybe I cry easier. Maybe I check if she's breathing too often. But loving my baby fiercely is not a pathology. Being young is not a diagnosis. And concern is not a free pass to trample boundaries. So, internet jury, tell me straight. Was I wrong to refuse their intervention and leave dinner? Did I overreact? Or did I do the only sane thing when a family conversation turned into a lineup where I was the only one without a chair on the safe side of the table? I'm open to real help. I'm open to learning. I'm open to changing what isn't working. But if you want me to hear you, meet me where I am, sleep-deprived, healing, and try my best to keep a tiny early bird human alive. Ask me how I am before you tell me who I am. Offer a casserole before you offer a link. Hold the baby when I hand her to you, not when you demand her from me. Because at the end of the day, the only list that matters is the one I keep in my head at 3 a.m. Diapers, feed, burp, breathe, love, repeat.